and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about a big fat problem. Obesity is a major problem not only in this country but around the world. Obesity is a chronic, relapsing, multifactorial neurobehavioral disease where an increase in body fat promotes adipose tissue dysfunction and abnormal fat mass. These forces result in adverse metabolic, biomechanical, and psychosocial health consequences. In 2017 and 2018, obesity prevalence in the United States was 42.4%. And when you account for those that were just overweight, that's more than 2 in 3 adults. And this is not just an adult problem. There is a growing trend among our children, with 1 in 6 now meeting criteria for obesity. Obesity is directly related to heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and risk for some cancers, which lead to the causes of preventable and premature death in this country. A common question that I get in my clinic is related to the connection between being fat and eating fat. Since the 1960s, dietary fat and cholesterol have been vilified in our diets, and we have only seen metabolic disease rise since that time. So let's first start by talking about cholesterol. Cholesterol is an essential component of our bodies. It's literally what our cellular membranes are made of. Although studies show an increased risk of cardiovascular disease associated with higher cholesterol, that's simply not true in the absence of metabolic disease and inflammation. We really need to step back and look at the larger picture. Cholesterol is produced by our body inside of our liver. Cholesterol is part of our cellular membranes. Our hormones like estrogen, testosterone, cortisol, and many others are made from cholesterol. Our liver converts cholesterol into bile acids to help with digestion and absorption of our fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. Our brain and our nervous system need cholesterol too. The myelin sheath that surrounds and protects our nerve cells contains lots of cholesterol. The majority of cholesterol in our bloodstream is made by our body. But dietary cholesterol comes from animal food sources. Cholesterol is actually not the same as fat. Meats and dairy contain small amounts of cholesterol and larger amounts of fat, where things like seafood and organ meats are high in cholesterol and lower in fat. Despite everything you've been told, eating cholesterol doesn't really have a large impact on blood cholesterol levels. In fact, when you eat more cholesterol, the liver tends to produce less, resulting in more stable blood cholesterol levels. Cholesterol is transported throughout the body by something called lipoproteins. Think of them like a little boat. The boats containing apolipoprotein B are called LDL cholesterol, and the boats containing apolipoprotein A are called HDL cholesterol. There is no such thing as good versus bad cholesterol. LDL and HDL both have very specific roles inside of our body. LDL even does good things and is part of our immune response and response to injury. There are also genetic and hormonal factors at play when it comes to your cholesterol levels. Current recommendations based on epidemiology studies show that our total cholesterol should be less than 200, LDL less than 100, HDL greater than 40 for men and greater than 50 for women, and triglycerides less than 150. What this does not account for is our metabolic health. Did you know that many people who have heart attacks have low LDL levels and people with high LDL actually live longer? Let me talk about what dietary fats are actually doing when it comes to cholesterol, inflammation, and metabolic disease. Animal fats have been vilified because they contain higher amounts of saturated fat. You heard over and over again not to eat red meat because it has so much saturated fat. But more than 50% of the fat in beef is monounsaturated fat. This is an inconvenient truth. In fact, when I personally switched to a more carnivore-based diet, my total in LDL cholesterol actually went down. When saturated fat became the enemy, we replaced those fats with polyunsaturated vegetable oils, trans fats, refined flours, sugars, high fructose corn syrup, and artificial food additives. In fact, trans fats are proven to be so bad for our health that the WHO is mandating that trans fats be removed from all food by 2023. Intake of oils like corn, safflower, and soybean oil have more than doubled, and they will continue to rise if we take trans fats off the table. How can we change our diets for the positive? By reducing consumption of these inflammatory seed oils, refined carbs, and sugars. So what happens to your cholesterol when you eat a low-carb diet? What will happen is triglycerides will go down, HDL will go up and LDL might go up, might go down, or it might stay the same. It's not uncommon to have a rise in LDL with weight loss too. So I do not recommend even checking the cholesterol until the weight has been stable for many months. What happens to the LDL cholesterol is they tend to become bigger, fluffier type LDL, and not the hard, tight particles that cause more damage when they get oxidized. You can get an advanced lipid panel checked by your doctor to actually see what your particle size is. You should also have inflammatory markers like hsCRP checked, as this is what oxidizes LDL, attenuates the nitrous oxide, activates the complement system, and increases cellular adhesion, making those LDL more atherogenic. High LDL alone does not cause cardiovascular disease. It's multifactorial. Another great risk stratification test is the CAC, or coronary artery calcium scan. In most places, you can get this test for less than $100. Or you can get a carotid intima media thickness test to look at your carotid arteries in your neck. There's a small subset of people who eat low carb and have a significant rise in their LDL cholesterol. These people have been labeled lean mass hyperresponders. According to work done by Dave Feldman, with higher energy demands, lower body fat and lower glycogen stores, your liver hyperresponds by pumping out lipoproteins to keep up with the fuel for the cells. Another theory is that the same pathway in the liver that makes ketone precursors like acetyl-CoA could also increase cholesterol synthesis. Either way, it's not due to eating your steak. To give you an example of why it's not helpful to look at one isolated marker like LDL, let's look at a 2009 study comparing a low-fat diet to a low-carb diet. The study was done by Jeff Volek, who has published a robust amount of data on the ketogenic diet. What he found was that the very low-carb diet was more effective at reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease by showing a greater decrease in body fat, abdominal fat, a greater reduction in triglycerides, an increase in HDL, a decrease in LDL particles, lower blood glucose levels, lower insulin levels, and an increase in insulin sensitivity. Are you still skeptical? Remember that 800,000 people have heart attacks every year, and 700,000 have a stroke. Of those people, 50% of them have normal cholesterol levels, and 15 to 20% had no risk factors. None of us are immune. You need to know your numbers and control the things that you can control. So what can you do if you're at a higher risk? First, fix your insulin resistance and metabolic disease. Be aware that prescription medications like statins and new PCSK9 inhibitors come with adverse side effects. They deplete your body of CoQ10, causing myalgias. They can also cause liver toxicity, renal failure, contribute to dementia, and actually increase insulin resistance. So please understand that lifestyle changes are so important, and they should always be the first step in treatment. In our next video, we're going to talk about hacks for your heart, where we'll discuss other integrative medicine approaches to reduce your risk for obesity, metabolic disease, and heart disease. Thank you for listening today. Feel free to like and comment below. Please ask your questions. Like this video and share it with your friends. And of course, subscribe to my channel and turn on your notifications so that you'll see our future content.